I'm asking for a personal bond today for Mr. Salisbury. He did has a pretty serious injury as a result of these charges, and that does require some extensive medical treatment as well as surgery in the near future.
The reason for the R&O is because when law enforcement arrived on scene, the officers tried to separate the defendant and the victim so that they could interview them separately. They took the defendant out onto a balcony. And
today in Judge Simpson's courtroom, we take a look at a domestic disturbance that went from bad to worse as a male defendant found himself in a heated exchange with the police. What began as a tumultuous encounter at his residence escalated into a scuffle on the balcony, culminating in the defendant's apprehension and subsequent arrest. Amidst the chaos, the defendant sustained injuries, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. Now, with his lawyer petitioning for a personal bond, citing the need for medical attention, specifically surgery on his arm, Judge Simpson faces a pivotal decision. Will Judge Simpson grant the motion for a bond, allowing the defendant access to necessary medical care? Or will the severity of the circumstances sway the scales of justice in a different direction? Stay tuned to find out.
Case People versus Todd Salisbury.
Assistant Public Defender Hannah Apple appearing on behalf of Mr. Salisbury. Mr. Salisbury, will you please state your name for the record?
Todd Michael Salisbury. All right. What do we do?
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Can I go back on now, please? Thank you. That was bad. That was my bad. All right. Record to reflect we had a bench conference in this case.
Thank you, Your Honor. As to the probable cause conference, we're asking for an adjournment. We are waiting on a 911 call. So I think a 2-week adjournment would be sufficient for that. And then
March 14th, 2024, 9 a.m. Yes, as to bond.
I did wish to address bond. I'm asking for a personal bond today for Mr. Salisbury. He did has a pretty serious injury as a result of these charges, and that does require some extensive medical treatment as well as surgery in the near future. He is from the area. He does have a job that he can return to, but I would ask that he be able to attend to those medical from out of custody.
Response.
we would object to any modification in bond in this case. It is a domestic violence incident. That is the misdemeanor tagging on here. This is a felony R&O. The reason for the R&O is because when law enforcement arrived on scene, the officers tried to separate the defendant and the victim so that they could interview them separately. They took the defendant out onto a balcony, and while he was outside, he began yelling back at the victim and refusing to comply when law enforcement tried to get him to stop yelling at the victim. He multiple times ignored lawful commands. At one point, they had tried to grab his arm to escort him away, and he pulled away. He cocked his arm back as if he was going to punch the officer. At that point, the officer grabbed his arm in attempts to prevent him from punching. At that point, because there was a railing and they were on a second story, the officer had tried to push the defendant away, but he did not want him to fall over the railing, so he pulled him back. But the defendant was still not compliant at that point. And then the officer tried to deliver a single knee strike to the defendant, which was ineffective in getting him to comply. So they continued to give him orders to put his hands behind his back. At that point, it did not work, so they pushed him into a wall to limit his movement and were successful in handcuffing his left hand, but he continued to not comply and swung around. And at that point, another officer administered a takedown. And at that point, only at that point, was it effective in getting the defendant to comply. He has an extensive criminal history dating back to 1996, including an 2008 conviction for unarmed robbery, a 2010 conviction for UTA, a 2010 conviction for a home invasion third, a 2011 conviction for larceny in a building. He does have a hold out of Canton for $300. At this point, I don't think it's appropriate to reduce bond at all.
Anything else, Ms. App?
Your Honor, I would leave it to what I previously stated. I would just acknowledge that he, as I stated, he does have a criminal history, but that most of it is not from any time in the recent past.
But his medical needs are being attended to by the sheriff's department, so he's getting to his appointments.
My understanding is they do have him scheduled for the follow-up, but the recommendation from his physician is that he needs surgery. I have great confidence that the Washington County Sheriff's Office will get him to his surgery if he needs it. Understood.
Motion for bond reductions denied. Thank you.
Is in Zoom from the MDO. They're signing in 2 people. I don't know who that is, and we need to ask for MDOC to identify them.
MDOC. Young man in the MDOC, can you identify who you are? They're signing in 2 people. We don't know who you are.
My name is Kawan Fields.
Say it again. Okay, got it.
Kawan Fields.
Got it. Okay. Let me call your case, see if we can get you done. Court does call the case of the people versus Kawan Fields.
Your Honor, Lauren Brown, Deputy Chief Public Defender, appearing on behalf of Mr. Fields, who has already identified himself.
Yes.
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Morgan Barroso on behalf of the people.
Your Honor, there are 2 additional charges that he needs to be arraigned on, a domestic violence and a malicious destruction of a building. You waive formal reading of those,
Yes, Your Honor, we would.
and defendant stands mute to those charges.
Yes, Your Honor. he does.
Thank you.
So, Your Honor, we've had a very difficult time in being able to connect with Mr. Fields. Is it possible that I could do a breakout room with him? I tried to arrange this earlier. We just couldn't get it done.
Did he just do that? Brown? Yes, for a breakout room.
I tried to do the right thing, Your Honor.
That wasn't it.
That was the next best.
Where are you gonna do the breakout room?
I have a computer. I'll take it, log on, and so I'll need about.
He's not even logged in. So we gotta wait?
Well, Your Honor, we could just adjourn it, and I could.
No, go have your breakout room. Go ahead. Put him in a break. Can you do that, Ann? All right. Nobody else gets a breakout room for the rest of the year. He took the one the PD get. Sir, we're gonna Mr. Fields, we're gonna put you into a breakout room with your attorney. So you can have a brief conversation with you, okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All comments, viewpoints, interpretations, and insights expressed in this video are for education and entertainment purposes. All individuals featured in the video are to be presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Please do not attempt to contact, locate, or engage with any individuals featured in the video.